Hello, we are CEOStudios, and this is our Semester 2 presentation for Psyche Break. Similar to Semester 1, team members have stayed the same. We have myself, Colton Kirshner. I'm the team lead programmer, level designer, and I go over integration and build integrity. We have Elle White, which does the project management, design, concept art, modeling, and rigging. Oliver Zink does sound engineering, modeling, and design. Daniel Toronto does all the music composition, and Joseph Belt does concept art, texture, and modeling. So for the elevator pitch, it's ultimately stayed similar to last semester, but we have made a few tweaks to it to make it more fine-tuned. And what we have right now is Psyche Break is a top-down psychological fantasy adventure game. The game uses procedural generation and will be in a stylized 3D aesthetic. There will be 3 dungeons the player must explore and fight through to uncover the story. The core of the game revolves around a unique story that gives players a journey and message of struggling to find oneself and striving to feel complete. The game is set in a rundown, crystallized world the player must explore to uncover their lost memories. The selling point of the game is the fun gameplay loop, giving a sense of progression as you learn more about your past and learn more about who the fallen hero used to be. The boss fights and randomized dungeons are also a strong gameplay selling point. Our goal for the game is to make something that is fun but also tells an impactful story. And for system goals, we have the mechanics here, abilities and acquisition of the abilities, procedural generated dungeons, 3 abilities, fireball, AoE, and a buff ability, and 3 mini bosses that goes along with the dungeons and the abilities. 1 mini boss per dungeon. The first dungeon has the fire mage that has the fireball ability, and its motion that we go over in the game is passion. The next mini boss in the next dungeon will be the electric troll that has the AoE ability and it goes over the emotion ire. And the final dungeon will have the water swordsman that has the buff ability and goes over the emotion sorrow. And the final boss utilizes all 3 of these abilities in tandem and ultimately acts as a shadow of the player that the player will defeat at the end of the game. And to push along the actual narrative and lore, the game will be using dialogue. And over to the right, we have some screenshots of some works in progress we got done last semester. The first one on the top left kind of shows me utilizing one of the flamethrower abilities that I made. And you can see in the bottom, I have the icons filling up the hotbar with the abilities. Those are just placeholders just to get them to work. But essentially, you pick up any ability, it fills the hotbar with its given icon. You can either click the icon or press the correlated button to use the ability, and it goes on cooldown and stuff. And the one on the right kind of shows me battling one of the normal enemies. You can see if I'm locked on to the enemy, you can see a health bar for the enemy above his head. You can also see me blocking his attack with a shield and visual effects for that block. And for the other HUD stuff, the other new addition was the flask in the bottom left that shows you how many healing items you have left for that run. And in the top left, we have health and stamina. And for the bottom left picture, this is a early shot of the procedural dungeon where I just made a bunch of like different rooms with different numbers of exits and some stairs and hallways and then randomly connected them to each other. We're going to be using this same system, but we're going to replace these squares that I made just for testing purposes with actual design rooms that you'll see later in this presentation. In the far right, you see me with the boss enemy that I coded. You can see him doing a unique long ranged attack. He also has a rare heavy attack. So he has more unique attacks and functionality than normal enemies, and he has a bigger health bar that shows up at the bottom, but that may be moved around for finalizing things, but that was just for testing purposes. Okay, for art and design goals, we're going for a stylized kind of art style with all of our 3D models, and we're playing off of a crystal world kind of theme, also leaning into some dark fantasy to kind of hit that psychological part of our fantasy adventure game. And we'll have 5 main levels for the full game, 3 procedurally generated dungeons that I mentioned previously, 1 hub level slash boss level. So in the top left, you can see a picture of this main circle that has branching up paths to other like these large triangles. So that is our blocked out hub level right now. And how that's going to work is those triangles are going to be uh, 3D model and design to be actual gateways into the dungeons, and this will be the main hub world. And once you get all the crystals from defeating the bosses, you'll put the crystals in the middle, and then eventually the this hub world will turn into the arena for the final boss. And we'll also have a tutorial level that we have not worked on yet. And also some other things we've gotten done. We've gotten the player character done for the most part, minus a few little tweaks and some other models. If you look at the top right, you can see in the middle with the hood is the player character currently, and to his left is the weapons because we have three different weapon styles for actual melee combat. And to his right are different trash mob enemies that will appear in the different dungeons, and their colors correlate with what dungeon they will be in. And in the bottom image kind of shows the corridor like dungeon room design for one of the uh, dungeon rooms that will fill in the procedural dungeon. So that's how one of them is looking so far. And moving into the concept art, I'm going to pass it off to Elle.
Hi, my name is Elle, and I am the project manager slash scrum master, however you want to refer to it. I'm also in charge of design and concept art as well as modeling. I am going to go over some of the visual references and concept art we already have in place. Um, Starting from the left, we have artwork that I did for our main character. Moving on to one of our main like trash mob, dungeon mobs. And then far right, we've got on the top a concept art for the one of the dungeon mini bosses, and on the bottom is a different dungeon's mini boss. Um, this is all concept art I have done from last semester, and hopefully we can build on it and get things done modeling wise. We have some of these things already in progress, like the main character and the crystal mob. Those are already in the process of being modeled. But to move on, this is concept art done by one of our team members, Joe Belt. He is not an active student at Purdue, so he is helping us where he can. During his job and everything, but this is concept art he did for our hub world, kind of giving us a more finite design on what we wanted the main level to be, as well as building off of some of the designs I did for some of the trash mobs, and building on those gate designs as well. um, this is more of the concept art that Joe has done. We've got some of the destructibles for the level, as well as some lighting designs, ways that we can implement lighting seamlessly into the levels, as well as artwork he did for some of the weapons that we need, just in general environment design things, some UI elements. And then down at the bottom right are some of the direct room examples that we wanted for and needed for our level design concept art to really design out what we wanted the levels to look like, with the procedural generation. Um, Past this, Oliver is going to take the reins and go over our production pipeline and source control, and finish us out here today. Thank you.
I am Oliver, and rounding out the presentation, I'm going to be talking about the production pipeline. The production pipeline is going to be very similar to the last semester, and we're going to be using Google Drive and GitHub to deal with assets and holding the version of the game. GitHub's going to be housing the version of the game through Unreal Engine, while Google Drive is going to hold individual assets like sound effects, music, and otherwise. It's almost identical to last semester, and so there's not really much to talk about, but the actual deliverable we're aiming for is a 5 to 10 minute minimum demo. Ideally, however, we want a tutorial level and dungeon to be playable. Specifically, we want our tutorial level, our finished dungeon with boss, a good gameplay loop, and finished complete hub level, along with dialogue to build up lore and create the story. I believe, and we believe, that this is doable and completely plausible within our scope. But that's all I have to say. Thank you for watching and listening.